Hi, everybody. It's Gene Simmons, and you're not, and you're listening to the Potter Than Hell podcast with Steve, BC, BB, and Dylan. But you knew that, didn't you?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Potter Than Hell podcast. This is your last stop on the crazy train of hard rock and heavy metal. So sit back, buckle in, and hang on. Here we go.
Hello, Potter Than Hellians, and welcome back to the Potter Than Hell podcast. This is Steve, your host, and I'm joined by... Oh, wait, no. This is Aaron Martel from the Ridiculous Rock Record Reviews podcast and designated Iron Maiden guy for Potter Than Hell. And I'm going to be your host this episode, as I'm joined by...
Steve.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's all we need.
That's
got
it.
This covered.
That's right, baby.
Oh, yeah. So, Steve, you guys just had one hell of a milestone last week. 300 episodes. Holy shit. Congratulations to you and your crew and to the podcast.
Thanks. It's hard to believe that we, didn't kill each other in those 300 episodes. I'm sure Dylan mostly wanted to kill me most of the time, but it's crazy. Like, looking back, and, we started... we're kind of like Abe Lincoln back in the log cabin down at BC's old house before it got renovated and stuff in his kitchen. It was like 9,000 degrees. We started recording in the summer, and now we're in this deluxe studio in my house. Yeah, right. Yep. But it's crazy, and it's, we have a great fan base, awesome listeners, like you, cast of characters that come on the show, like you and Sonny and Steven and Tom and Zeus and Brad and Mark Anthony K and everybody else, Dave and Jim and Jen. It's crazy. And if I left anybody out, I apologize. I'm just doing this off the cuff here. But it's been a cool ride, and I literally was working on shows. I have shows scheduled until September right now, so I'm going to be working on like the ones for the rest of the year, like in a couple weeks. So. Got some cool shit coming up, and Thank you for being a part of it with us.
Oh, of course. I mean, I've listened to all 300 episodes. I mean, I say this every time I come on this podcast. I'm a card-carrying Potter Than Hellion from the very beginning, and at this point, I've heard your guys' voices so much. You guys are like, it's going to sound corny, but you guys are like family. You know what I mean? Like, I want to hear what BC's opinions are. I want to hear you guys argue with BB about his crazy music tastes, and Dylan kind of is the glue that holds everything together. So,
oh yeah.
No, I've always loved your show. I love coming on your show. So yeah, this is an honor for me.
I appreciate it, and it was good to actually meet you too at Rock and Pot a couple years back there. And kind of sucked we didn't get a whole lot of time to hang out and shit. But we did get to meet and chat a little bit.
Sometime. You're not even that far. I should pop over to Pennsylvania one of these times.
Yeah, we're actually I might be up that way for a couple Red Sox games this summer too. So.
Do that. Let me know.
Up in your neck of the woods there. We can get you and Tom and Zeus together, and Murph. Yeah. We could have a little. My wife will love that. But yeah. So absolutely. So like if we're hoping to get to Rock and Pod next year. This year, none of us we really couldn't make it work schedule wise, and it's a haul. You know what I mean? It's either a flight down and back or a 12 and 13 hour ride. So
we couldn't make it either. It just wasn't our year. So maybe next year. I hope so. Yeah, it's a drive. It's none of us are gonna fly. We can't afford to fly. You know what I mean? So it's a drive. Last time we did it, we drove straight.
Yeah, we do too.
Chorus, we just drove straight. We didn't stop or anything. It was like 19, 20 hours, whatever it was.
But you know what? It was fun drive because I've driven that. I've been to 3 Rockin' Pods. We've driven it twice. BC and I went the very first year, just to check it out because we were only out for not even a year at the time. So we drove down to check it out, and we met Sonny and Chris and Steven and all those guys, and Julian and the guys from Kiss FAQ and stuff, and became friends with everybody. And then we went the next year. We drove. And then BB and I flew down for the one before the last one. And actually, no, I've been to, and my wife and I went to the one before this last one. So I've been to 4 of them. So,
right.
But hopefully we could get there again. And it's always a good time. Looks like those guys had a fantastic time.
So we had a really good time when we went a couple years ago. So yeah, it is something I'd like to do again.
Yeah.
It's the only time we can gather our group because we're all over the place. We got a guy from New Jersey and a guy from Texas, and
it was cool to meet Mike and Lou too. Lou came up to me. I'm like, hey, Lou, you guys are great, and I love coming out. And actually, I got one coming up on your show in a couple of weeks or something like that. So that's going to be another good one. So I just want to thank you personally for all your help and support throughout the years. And I like doing these album duo ones, or 2x2, I think Dylan calls them. And like you said, you're our Maiden guy, and this gives my other 3 cohorts a break. Sorry, except for Dylan. He still has to edit this, but
sorry, Dylan.
Yeah, but it gives those guys a break in the action too. So I don't get one, but I don't give a shit. But I do. I have a couple weeks off coming up because vacations and stuff. So those guys will take the helm and man the ship and do acoustic and
you need
fucking shit like that. Yeah. So I put some breathing room for me in there this summer. So
good.
But it's cool. But like there's like episodes when I'm not on, I'm like, God, I wish I was on that. You know what I mean? But it is good to get a break.
Yep. Very good. All right, so before we really get into the podcast, we got to talk about some recent news. I think it was a day ago from the day that we're recording this.
Yeah.
And today is what, March
30th. March 30th.
Yep,
March 30th.
Ace Frehley called into the Eddie Trunk show, and it was unbelievable, dude. Did you hear that? What'd you make of that?
I did. I actually listened to the whole thing today. And there were parts where, where the, spoiler alert, if you guys didn't listen to it, you might want to fast forward a couple minutes. Ace said, because Ace he said that he had heard what they said, and what Paul had said, and if Ace and Peter came back, it would be called Piss. And Ace had heard that, but he said he hadn't heard the episode. Or the interview with Howard Stern. So Eddie said, he paraphrased it, of course, and said, that was the gist of what he said. And then Ace demanded an apology from him and Gene within 7 days, or he's going to get back on the show and dish some dirt and all this shit. But it's just fodder for the, crazy Kiss fans to get riled up. And, I'm like, whatever, you know what I mean? It's an ongoing thing. You're never gonna see Ace up on the stage with
No way.
But Peter's been not saying anything, so there may be a shot of him coming out and singing Beth. Maybe.
No way, dude. There's no way.
You don't think so?
They're gonna have no.
I
they're
think
just gonna play a regular the show they've been doing.
Yeah, they're not gonna do anything extra. They're not gonna do anything special.
No, they're not.
If there's one glimmer of hope, I would say maybe Peter, maybe that would be the outside shot of the world. But Ace,
I doubt that too.
He just
not with Paul in charge.
Torched that bridge, and you're right too. You're gonna get the same show, same set, the pods and this. You know what I mean? The same set list and everything. So
to my mind, the only one who's got a chance of getting on stage with them may be Bruce Kulick.
Bruce, you think?
He's the only one I could think of.
Well, I would hope if he does come out. And they could do like Tears Are Falling, and we can finally see at a Kiss show how to actually play the solo in that song. You know, nothing against Tommy, but he just can't pull off the Bruce and the Vinny solos.
No,
can't do it.
No, he can't. He can't. He even fudges the Ace solos too sometimes. But I mean, Tommy Thayer, he's been solid for them for a long time. I'm not one of these guys that hates bash Tommy and Eric. They're doing their jobs.
Yeah, if Eric and Tommy didn't do that, someone else would be in there. And how would you say, no, I don't want to be in Kiss? No, I don't want to do it.
Yep. And even though we criticize Eric for kind of looking bored up there, and Tommy is he's copying Ace, even the way he walks sometimes.
I know.
Those guys are pros. They are. Like I said, they do their jobs and
they show up and they hold down the fort. I mean, they carry Paul on their shoulders for sure. I mean, Gene's still solid vocally and musically. I mean, Paul musically, it's hard to tell because he's dancing half the time, other than playing. So. But Tommy and Eric and Gene, musically they're solid. I can't say good or bad for Paul because, like I said, he's dancing around a lot and he's the front man. Yeah. I mean, that's his job. Yeah. So, but those guys.
But Ace is the gift that keeps on giving to Kiss fans. I'll tell you what.
Fuck yeah! Oh yeah.
Paul's using backing tracks and I got a safety deposit box
Yeah, with 100.
Something happens to me.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna put a hit out on him.
Yeah. So if he's shot in a drive-by like Biggie Smalls or something like that, the lawyer will be at the bank the next day with the key to release the 120-page manifesto. I was gonna say manifesto too. So who knows? It's crazy, but it
totally
got
crazy.
It got everybody fucking stirred up, which I love. I love watching everybody go back and forth. People are losing their minds and shit. I'm like, you're not used to this by now? Where have you been? You know what I mean? It's just it makes it more interesting. Do you have tickets for any of the final shows?
No, dude, there's no way I could afford them. Even I'd love to. I'd love to go see it, but yeah, I mean, I took a quick look at obviously secondary market prices. Forget it, man. It's just out of reach for me.
Yeah, we ended up getting tickets for the Friday show and paid ridiculous for them, but
of course.
But I always said I wanted to be at the final show or one of the final shows with my buddy Rob. So we're gonna do that. So
that's great.
And so we'll be there.
I would have loved to do that too. I mean, this Kiss has been my band since I'm 6. So it's 1976. I mean, they're
me too.
They're probably still my favorite. They're probably still my favorite band of all time. Like especially the 73 to 79, the original band. I mean, that's my favorite band of all time. I'm not. I can't deny that. So
absolutely.
But So Ace, Paul Stanley, what has he got? 6 days, 5 days?
He's got I think he's got 5 days left. So he's got.
Ace is gonna let him have it.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, man.
That's never gonna happen. I mean, Paul saying sorry.
No, I know. I hope Ace goes back on though and just drops some bombs. It would be just awesome.
Yeah. And like you could tell Eddie was kind of caught off guard too, I think.
Oh yeah.
He was like, okay. I was just
the whole interview. Eddie was going, you said you're sober 17 years.
Yeah.
Sure?
It always comes back.
It
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like it.
I know.
It was awesome.
Yeah, but always fun though. So.
Yeah. So one more thing I wanted to talk about, I wanted to bring up before we get into this is Metallica just put out another track, the title track from the upcoming album, 72 Seasons. Have you heard that yet, Steve?
I listened to about half of it. I clicked on the video today, and then I kind of got doing something at work, and I didn't get back to it. It's like 6 or 7 minutes or something like that. It's a longer song. And I listened to probably a little more than half of it. I liked it. There was one like little musical interlude in there. I'm like, why the fuck is that in there? Like, it was just this like this weird part in the, wasn't the like the rhythm of the song, and it wasn't like the rhythm of the solo. It was just this little thing, seemed like it was just like thrown in the middle of it, and then they went back to either vocals or guitar or something like that. But I liked it. I love I think the soloing that I saw from Kirk was fantastic.
Yes.
But I mean, they were kind of blacked out with all the weird shit in the background and stuff, but I like it. I thought the drumming on it was really good. James's voice sounded a little low, I thought, but I wasn't listening to it like on a I was just listening to it on a cheap pair of headphones on my computer at work. So
right.
I didn't really get a chance to check it out with my good headphones and stuff. But I like what they put out so far. The one they put out right before this one, I was like a little on, but the first two, Lux Eterna and Screaming Suicide, I think, were the first two.
Yeah.
I thought they were really, really good. The third one, I was like, kind of like, it's okay. But I did like this one from what I heard so far. How about you?
Yeah, I've pretty much liked all 4 of them so far. This new one today, it's fast, it's heavy, it's what I want from Metallica.
Yep.
So, like you said, Kirk's solo is really good. So, I'm impressed so far. I'm cautiously optimistic because I'm been pretty critical of this band.
Oh yeah.
Ever since the Black Album.
Yep.
Which I think a lot of people are, but I like what I've heard so far. I have like I said, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about this record. So far, I've liked what I've heard.
Yeah. Are you going to the album premiere at the theater?
No, but I'm thinking about checking them out because they're going to be around at Gillette Stadium in the summer. I think towards August.
Right.
So I'm thinking about going out to see one. Or actually, do you have to buy tickets for both shows now?
No, you can buy one for either.
Yeah. So I might try to see one or both of those shows. I'm still thinking about that. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to go to the premiere or do something like that.
Yeah.
Are you doing that?
Yeah, I got tickets for me, BCBB, and BC's son-in-law. We're going to go to the theater, and that's on the 13th of April, I think. And I was glad I went in.
Cool.
I got like 4 of the last like 8 or 9 tickets left in the theater.
Cool.
So I was surprised they went that quick, because it was like only the second day that they went on sale that I grabbed them up. So that's gonna be pretty cool. And actually, when we're watching that, Dylan's gonna be in Florida at the Taylor Swift concert.
Oh wow!
With his girlfriend. Yeah, they're going to 2 shows. They're going to the one in Fort Lauderdale, I think he said, and then there's one in Philadelphia that they're going to in the summer.
That's a little bit out of format for this podcast.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but we'll get a review. I bet you she probably puts on a good show.
I hear that it's spectacular. I really, all right, fine, but whatever.
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
daughter went to see her a few years ago,
and she's a fellow Pennsylvanian.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. So, good for her. And obviously, the thing is, it's like she's got to be like the biggest star in the world right now. So.
Yeah, if not, I couldn't name one that would be bigger.
Yep. So good for her. All right. So. Steve, this would not be a Potter Than Hell show if I didn't ask, what have you been listening to?
All right, this week, actually, the last couple of days, I've been listening to, I still been rocking out to that new Avatar album, Dance Devil Dance, really good. The new Godsmack album, Lighting Up the Sky, I've really gotten into that one. And I had a little throwback today, listened to the Fastway All Fired Up album, which I forgot how good, I mean, I listened to the self-titled one quite a bit, and but I rarely throw on All Fired Up, and I'm like, why the fuck aren't I throwing this on more? Because it's friggin' fantastic. And I just, right before we came on air, I just listened to the whole LA Gun self-titled album that I haven't listened to in years and years, and there's some songs I forgot about on there, because I mean, they have such a a large catalog, and when you do see them now, you only get maybe three songs from the first album. You get a lot from Cocked and Loaded, and then they kind of sprinkle newer stuff and everything throughout the set. So there were ones like Hollywood Tease. I totally forgot about that song. The Bitch Is Back. It's one of the great debut albums of that era. If you want to call it hair metal, whatever. If you get mad or not, whatever. But that's what it's kind of identified as. But fantastic debut album though. And I saw them on that tour. They opened up for AC/DC on that tour. And I want to say it was the Blow Up Your Video tour, maybe.
Yeah.
But
that was around 88, I think.
Yeah.
That sound right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great album though. So I was glad to get back onto a little older Fastway in the debut of LA Guns. How about you?
That is a good record. Besides the albums that I have to listen to get ready for my podcast, I've been diving a little bit into the back catalog of the Foo Fighters, a band I know you love, Steve.
Oh, yeah.
But I do know that Dylan likes him. I'm going to try to get him back on our podcast later this year to do a Foo Fighters episode. So, I'm doing a little bit of, advanced research.
A little pre-gaming.
I like them. I mean, they're a band
I don't mind them.
They've never been, a favorite or anything. But I'm surprised how much I like what I've been hearing with them. So that's basically what I've been diving into lately. So Steve is listening to Avatar, some new Godsmack, Fastway, All Fired Up, and the LA Guns self-titled album, while I am just been doing the deep dive into the Foo Fighters. All right, so let's get into what we're here for. It's another 2x2 series. You've got a few of these series ongoing, right?
I do. I have 1, 2, 3. I think I have 6 of them going. I think you're the 7th, I think.
All right. Well, I'm stoked that you asked me to do one of these. And, of course, what else are we going to do but do a 2x2 on Iron Maiden? So this episode, we're going to cover the first 2 albums, the Paul Di'Anno era. So, Steve, let's start this off with your Maiden story. Where do you come in with this band?
All right. I've told the story many, many times. And actually, this is going to be like about a 2x2.5, pretty much. Episode.
Right.
We'll get into that in a little bit. But, I've told the story many times. Me and my buddies, Rob and Chris, before we were able to drive, we'd take the bus to Scranton on Saturdays with our paper route money, and everybody would buy an album, and we would kind of swap them back and forth. And I had heard of Iron Maiden before, but I never heard them. They certainly weren't anything that was played on rock radio, especially northeastern Pennsylvania in early 1980s. So I saw Maiden Japan, and actually I have the copy of it right in front of me. And it had special offer mini LP. I think it was like $6 that it had like $5.98 on it or something like that. And so I figured, I'll pick it up. If it sucks, I only spent $6 on it. So took it home and popped it on. Running Free's the first track on there. We'll get into that in a little bit. But Remember Tomorrow's the Song that hooked me, and so that was probably 1982 because I got that in early fall, I think, and then for Christmas we would each get each other an album for Christmas, and then my buddy Rob had grabbed Number of the Beast for me, so that was already out. So it was probably 82, late 82, and put that on, but it was like, who's this guy singing? Then I remember, you look in the credits, and it was Bruce the Air Raid Siren Dickinson. I'm like, holy shit, that sounds cool. And, totally different from the other guy, but, and I eventually went back and, filled in the holes there, and I've been a Maiden head ever since.
Let's see, I first became aware of Iron Maiden, I think it was around 1982 also, so that's Number of the Beast. But the thing is, at the time, I wasn't listening to much hard rock or metal. I even stopped listening to Kiss. And what I was listening to was Top 40 radio.
Wow.
Which back then was like synth pop, one-hit wonders, AOR bands, Journey, Foreigner, REO Speedwagon, that kind of stuff. And I call this my pop purgatory period. And to me, Iron Maiden was metal. They were scary. They had that zombie guy in their album covers. And yeah, it looked kind of cool. But I'm not listening to that evil shit. And mind you, I grew up listening to bands like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, and Kiss. So I always liked heavy music. But at that point, I didn't make the connection. I wasn't friends with the metalheads. And I just wanted to listen to what my classmates were listening to. So that's why I was listening to this, top 40 shit. So now let's jump ahead a couple of years to 1984, and by then I'd come to my senses, and I'd rediscovered hard rock and metal music, and I was all in on this band called Van Halen that just blew my mind. I went absolutely apeshit for them. So I'm 14 years old, and I'm at this carnival. Like those traveling carnivals that go from town to town? And I go up to one of the game booths. The game was like, you throw a dart at this wall of balloons, and if you pop one, you win a T-shirt. And they had all these heavy bands like Sabbath, Zeppelin, Maiden, Ozzy shirts up there. So I won the game. I popped a balloon, and I picked a Van Halen T-shirt, of course. But the kid who was running the game, he was a young kid. I figure he was late teens, early 20s. He had a little boom box off to the side. And the entire time I'm playing the game, he's playing this music. And the first thing that catches my ear was, "Fly on your way like an eagle." And I'm like, what is that? That's really cool. So I stood off to the side, and I just listened to that tape. He played it over and over and over, just flipping the tape over and over. And one time when he was switching the tape, I looked at it, and it said Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind. And I was like, that's Iron Maiden? Holy shit, that's awesome. So that was in my head. We got to skip a couple more years, and Somewhere in Time comes out. I borrowed that tape from a friend, and I loved it so much. I didn't want to give it back to him. And I was like, all right, that's it. I want everything Maiden now. I love this music. So then over the next year, I just collected all the albums on cassette, and then I was a huge fan of this band ever since, with one large hiccup that we'll get to on a future episode in this series. Move on to the first album, the self-titled Iron Maiden. It was released on April 14th, 1980 on EMI Records in the UK and Harvest and Capitol Records in the United States. The producer was Will Malone. He was a guy who worked with a bunch of artists like Black Sabbath, Todd Rundgren, Massive Attack, and Depeche Mode, of all bands. It was recorded in 13 days, according to Steve Harris, at Kingsway Studios, West London, in January 1980, and then it was mixed at Morgan Studios, Northwest London, in February of that year. The album reached number 4 in the UK Albums Chart. It's certified platinum in the UK. So, let's talk about this album cover, Steve. What do you think of this thing?
Well, you know what? And it's cool. I was just sitting here thinking about it, looking. I have the album in my hand here. It's got the Eddie, I call him the anorexic Eddie, compared to the ones that you get down the road. Pretty cool, though. I remember, the first time seeing this one, I was like, holy, that's that's cool. Like, is it like, and you're, like you said, you're used to, you'd known Kiss and everything before that, but this was different. You know what I mean? It was, I couldn't remember, and I still can't really remember a band at that point that had a mascot. You know what I mean?
Right.
That, was like that, but it's pretty cool. It's like this album and the Eddie is like the band. They just evolve as they go along, and it's pretty cool. It's scary. Shows him.
Yes.
You can tell he's there at night, and like I don't know if you look at it, if he's surprising you or you're surprising him.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool, and it's got the little. I always wondered, I found out years later what that little symbol was, but it was how Derek Riggs, the artist, signed his work, and he always incorporated it at one point into somewhere in the thing, and it kind of got to be a thing over the years to look to see where you could find it and see where it was. And speaking of Derek Riggs, he's doing a tour this year, Aaron, where he's going to comic book shops and stuff, and he's signing his work.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he's coming to Scranton this year, and so I'm going to take a couple things. I gotta get my Peace of Mind album signed. So, and he was with them up until, I want to say, Seventh Son was the last one that he did with them until Brave New World, where he did the Eddie and the Clouds. But he's got some, and not even just the albums. He has the singles and all that stuff. So it's a good start. It's compared to what you get later, it's kind of if you want to call it primitive or whatever. But
primitive.
It's cool cover. I like it. And the newer ones have a darker tint to them, like the re-releases have like a darker tint to pretty much. It definitely, at least this one, I know Number of the Beast, because Number of the Beast went and that was supposed to be a different color, and they fixed it.
Yeah.
But
famously, yeah.
But pretty cool though. It still intrigues me to this day. How about you?
Yeah, I love that anorexic Eddie. That's great. I always thought he was like strung out. It was just good. He does look like he's surprised, or he's trying to scare you. I guess they found this, right? They were looking at what do you call it, a portfolio or something of Derek Riggs, and they kind of stumbled across this. Hey, that's our guy, and they made him like add a little bit more hair, because his hair is like all wild and
He's got bad head.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much an iconic cover by this point. And, it's Eddie. It's the beginning of Eddie, right?
Yep.
They called him Eddie, right? Because Eddie
the head. Yep.
Yep. Because it sounded like, instead of head, it was Ed.
Yep.
It's his Ed. So, and I think in the early shows, right, that they made a paper mache mask of it.
Yeah, and blood used to come out of it onto the drummer and everything.
Right. And then later they modified it to like putting lights on it, and then like red smoke came out of it. So, yeah, you're right. Eddie and Iron Maiden, they're intertwined. You can't. It's one without the other. You can't separate them.
No,
nope. It's a very, very important part. It is the band's image.
Yep.
And I mean, shit, it's on everything you can think of, from
hell yeah,
koozies here with Maiden stuff on it, and so they're almost as big a merchandisers as Kiss. I mean, they're pretty much up there.
Absolutely.
With Eddie.
Yep.
So, and the classic logo, right? I mean, that's everything. I guess Steve Harris said he designed it, but I guess it was based off another type of font or whatever. I don't know, but Steve Harris takes credit for it. But that's basically the font with a little bit of modification later on. But that's the font they've always used.
Yeah.
So when you get a Maiden album cover, it's going to have this logo and Eddie on it somehow.
And it went back to, like you said, it was modified. I think around X Factor maybe, and but they're gone back to the original one now. Again.
Which I'm very happy about.
Yeah, me too. Even though it was a little different, I want the original.
I do too. I'm in the same way. All right, so let's get into who is playing on this thing. And we have Mr. Paul Di'Anno on vocals, Dave Murray on guitar, Dennis Stratton, a name we're only going to talk about here and never again, on guitar and backing vocals, Steve Harris, the man, on bass and backing vocals, and Clive Burr on the drums. And make no mistake, this is Steve Harris's band. I mean, this Maiden had tons of lineups.
Oh yeah.
Before this one, I mean, we could go into it, I guess, if you want. But I mean, holy cow, like 6, 7, maybe even more.
Yeah, there's a ton of them, and because they started in 1976, and right. I think it was Christmas Day, 1976, right? 75, and so I mean, in and out, and it's if you want to really get into it, there's a Mick Wall's book Run to the Hills has a pretty good grasp on who was in and who was out, but we'll just kind of skim by it, that there was a shitload of people in the band, before this.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you don't want to cover that, because I'm like, oh man, that's gonna be a pain if we get all that crap. So, all right, let's dig into this album. Let's do a track by track review of this thing. What do you say?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, you want to do it one track at a time or one side at a time? How you feeling?
Let's do a side.
All right, cool. So, Steve, why don't you take it away? We got Prowler.
All right, starts out with Prowler. You get that now, that choppy riff with that wah pedal with the wah 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 wah. Yes. I think it's cool. It's like one of them things that gets stuck in your head.
It does.
I think it's a great song that introduces the band. Like, this is what you're going to get, because you get the aggression and the energy right from the start. You hear the Steve Harris's plinking bass that you can hear the strings hitting against the pickups, and
love that sound.
Yeah, and you get even this first song, you get a great time change in the song for the solo, and the solo totally rips it up. And Dave Murray plays the solo. There's 2 solos in this. Dave Murray plays the both of them on this one, and Paul's vocal. I'm gonna say this right off the bat. I like Paul singing on these 2 albums. And I think that as we go along, there are some songs that I would rather hear Paul Di'Anno sing than Bruce Dickinson.
I agree. I agree.
It's just I think it's a fantastic track that kicks off the band. And one thing that you're gonna find on a lot of these songs on these first 2 albums there's not a ton of lyrical content. You get, in this one, walking through the city looking oh so pretty. I just got to find my way. See the ladies lashing, all their legs and lashes. I just got to find my way. And, that's really the only verse you get in the song, because they repeat it later. And you get that in a couple different songs like that. So it's not a huge, not what you get now. You know what I mean?
It's kind of a lazy songwriting trick, but it's effective sometimes.
Yeah, it is, and it's a great song to kick off an album and a band. I think I like it. What's your thoughts on it?
Okay, it's fast and it leaps right out at you. And I like you. I love that. Wah wah. I got to do it too, just because wah 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 wah. The main riff. And Steve Harris would hate hearing me say this, but it's raw, and it definitely has a punk energy to it. I don't care what Steve says.
It does.
It's reflected in Paul Di'Anno's vocals. His voice is rough. It's gritty.
Yep.
And he's got a punk rock vibe that matches this music, really. So these 2 albums, mostly, and especially reflected in this song, this is not the Maiden that we're gonna get later on. To me, this is not typical Maiden. This is it's short, it's punchy. The lyrics are about a perv who skulks around and flashes women, but nothing comes of it for him, even though he's apparently well hung. The band hated the production. They thought it was kind of muddy, but they've remastered this sucker so many times, and I think it sounds good. It just has that raw energy. I agree with it. It's a great start to the record.
Absolutely. Then we go into now we're going by the U.S. release. Everyone out there, just so you know, we got a little Remember Tomorrow next, and this is the song that hooked me into Iron Maiden, and I'll get into that when we talk about Maiden Japan later. You get that mellow bass and some plinky guitar that starts in the beginning, and in contrast to the last song, you get that soft vocals from Paul, which you're like, oh, okay, and what's this going to be? And you get some nice little drum fills from Clive that brings it in, but it's one of them songs that I think Maiden becomes famous for. You get the lull, then you get the high, then you get the lull. I mean, this is like the grandfather of Revelations, I would say, that you're going to get down the road. And and Paul's vocals get up there pretty high in parts too, kicks back down, but when they get to the solo part and the kick up, it just friggin' tears it up. And Dave Murray does the first part of the solo, Dennis Stratton does the second part. Then back down, more soft things to the final kick up. And I consider this to be the first, it may not show it time-wise, but I consider this to be the precursor to the epic Iron Maiden songs where you get the time changes and in the back. I mean, you get the time change in the last song, but this one is a little more stretched out. But this is the song that hooked me into Maiden. It'll always be a favorite of mine. And this is one of the songs I was talking about that I would rather hear Paul sings this than Bruce. I've heard Bruce sing it, and I'll take the Paul version.
Yes, I agree with you. I also think Paul, for the first track, I like his voice better.
Yeah, because there's a Prowler 88 that they did as a B-side to something, and when they put out that tin box set, it was in that. And there's a Prowler 88, and there's a Charlotte the Harlot 88 too, and I so far 2 for 2 preferring Bruce singing, these first 2 songs.
Yeah. So Remember Tomorrow, they slow it down, and Deano's softer voice actually works well, which I wouldn't have expected after hearing the first track, but he does a good job singing softly. And like you said, light arpeggios on the guitar and bass. Then when the heavier riff kicks in, and it's melodic, and Deano's screams are pretty cool too. He gets, like you said, he gets up there. Then it goes into a whole other gear, fast, ripping guitar solos. And the lyrics, I guess, were just inspired by Deano's grandfather, who was a pilot in World War II, looking down from the sky, vowing to return from the fire of combat. I dig this one too.
All right, we are 2 for 2, and Running Free comes up next, the song that they ended up doing on the TV show in Britain, Top of the Pops, and I remember seeing videos of that. You get the thumping drums, and this is where you really get the Steve Harris do like. Mm-hmm. Love it. It's just, I'm not a massive fan of this song, but I love that beginning. It's like, this is Steve Harris. This is where you get into where now, like, any Maiden song, you could pinpoint the bass just like that. You know what I mean? A lot of songs, the bass gets buried in the mix, but it's Steve Harris makes it his own instrument. It's like lead bass. You know what I mean? It's not, but it goes, keeps the bottom in, but it's like so out there that it's, it's his signature. You can tell that it's not just your average bass player playing this stuff.
And it's always mixed up front. You can always hear what Steve is playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, one of the few songs of Maiden that you get background vocals on, it's fun. There's no real solo in this song. You get like a dual guitar part that is pretty cool that you, you're used to, that you do get, as Maiden progresses, you still get, all of the ingredients that you get even to this day are on this album, on these first 2 albums, and I really like that. I like it. I don't love it, but I like it. I mean, not very, very far from a skipper. I love the version of it. This is one that I do like Bruce Dickinson sing it better. Like on Live After Death, Bruce kills it on that one.
He does. I don't know. I'm kind of like, it's a tie for me, because I love how Paul sings it on the studio track. But yeah, that Clive Burr, that thumping drum pattern, that's the highlight, and the music just kind of falls into that drum beat. From Harris's bass line to the choppy guitar riffs. And I love that breakdown section where the guitars are doing that chunky palm muted thing. That chunky palm muted thing that takes us into the final verse. And Deano said he wrote this about being a young delinquent, running around town, doing what he wants, getting in trouble, and even spending a night in jail. And again, there's a punk energy and spirit to this. And this has become a Maiden classic. This was the first single from the record that made it to number 34 in the UK singles chart. So, yeah, I mean, who doesn't know this song if you're a Maiden fan?
Absolutely, it's a staple. It was always cool when they busted it out live, and I don't think they've done it for years.
They used to extend it, right? I mean, that's just the version you hear on Live After Death.
Yep.
They really extend it. So.
Yep. All right, next tune, Phantom of the Opera. This is the song that becomes the template for, I think, all the epic Iron Maiden songs that come.
Yes.
Even up to today. The song is amazing. Especially, this song came out in like 1980. So, there's several time changes in there. And can you imagine Kiss goes to Europe on the on the Unmasked tour, right? They go to Europe. Iron Maiden opens up for them, and they play Phantom of the Opera, and then you get to see Kiss perform fucking Shandy in about fucking half an hour. You know what I mean? Like it's insane. Like, can you imagine like what bands put out and Kiss put out Unmasked? I just wanted to throw that contrast in there. But this song is just great. The two guitars and the bass playing the same riff up to the kick in. Just awesome aggression in this song. The vocals are fantastic. You do get some layered vocals in the verses, which is fine. But goddamn, this song just absolutely rips. Just after the 2-minute mark, you get like a little plinky slowdown. Stop and start guitars. And that first solo, you get like a bluesy thing, and that's anytime you get any kind of bluesy stuff in Iron Maiden, that's going to be Dave Murray playing it. But like the bass in this one again, those time changes. The first time that I heard this live was when they used to do the King Biscuit Flower Hour, and they had the Maiden show from when they were opening up for Priest at the Palladium in New York, and this was just absolutely mind-blowing of hearing this song live. If there's a guitar harmony thing right before the solo. If you listen to Sign of the Cross from X Factor, they kind of nick part of that middle jam on this one. There's a little part in there that I think that it may be probably subconsciously recycled, I'm sure, because I mean that was 1998 I think that came out, but even you get that part in the middle, it even gives the song a little bit of time to breathe in the song too. But just killer track. Phantom of the Opera, always a cool movie. Lon Chaney as the Phantom of the Opera, and the lyrics are pretty cool. You're standing in the wings there, you wait for the curtain to fall, knowing the terror and holding you have on us all. Like, just and this gets you to where you're gonna get from Steve Harris the writing about the occult stuff, if you want, the horror stuff and like that. So it's a great beginning epic song for Maiden.
Absolutely. I mean, you called it. It's the first Maiden epic, and it's a really good one. It's got your multiple sections, time signature changes, rhythmic shifts, including the classic Maiden gallop that we're going to hear forever after this. The harmonized guitars, I refer to as guitarmony. It's got awesome solos. You said it, Steve. It sets the template for the numerous Maiden epics to follow. I do have a criticism of it, though. The melody is so fast for Di'Anno's voice, and sometimes it's hard to understand what he's singing. Yeah, I think he's having a hard time keeping up with it. And this is like the first example of the literary Maiden, where they take lyrical inspiration from pieces of literature, and it's loosely inspired by the 1909 French novel The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, as well as the famous 1925 film with Lon Chaney, like you said, Steve. It's a Maiden classic. I do think that this song here, though, is the beginning of Steve thinking, I might need another singer, because obviously with the later Maiden catalog, you know that Steve wants to go in this kind of direction, the longer, epic type proggier stuff. And I think he might be thinking, I'm not sure if this is the guy who's going to take us there. But this is another Maiden classic. Favorite of Steve Harris is when I hear it live. Oh man, you just go nuts as soon as you hear that. So yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, you get those chills up your spine when you hear that. You're like, oh my god, it's gonna be like a little kid. You know what I mean? And great way to end side one. Absolutely stellar side one. And then, but even if Steve Harris is thinking this might not be the guy that gets me there, he gets a break on the next song because it's Transylvania. It opens up side two, instrumental. This one's got tons of energy as well. I think I saw them play this once at one of the shows, and it was pretty. I don't know if I know they've played it in the last couple years, but I'm not sure if it was at one of the shows I was at or I seen a video for it. But this song is just a fucking jam. I mean, I would love if I hadn't seen it. I'm gonna say probably didn't. Because I think it might have been one of those European, like Sweden Rocks or something like that. They played it, and just killer ripping solo throughout the whole thing. The band just, it's an instrumental. It's Maiden. I'll give it BC. Fucking killer. Just great. I would lose my shit if they played this. And it's a good song to give your singer a break, too. And what you were saying about Paul on that, there are a few songs that we're going to talk about tonight that lyrically, it's tough to tell what the fuck he's singing because it's so, the lyrics are so fast. And I could see where, you need some.
Even Bruce gets challenged later on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Material.
Yeah. So, but this one's a great start to side 2.
I agree, man. For an instrumental, it's got really cool riffs with the bass following right along. Starts off mid-tempo, picks up the pace about halfway through. Nice screaming solos on it. It's a great. It just shows off the band's instrumental prowess. I love it. I've never seen it live, so I would love to see it live.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and look. See, I'm a little fuzzy, and I'm usually pretty good with shit like that. But then like when Transylvania ends, it like really just kind of fades and just transitions right into his next song, Strange World. This is aptly named Strange World for a strange song. I think it's got a very maybe like a Pink Floyd feel to it with that effect they have in the guitar. But I don't hate this at all. I think this is a good pause, a good palate cleanser, as Dylan likes to say, a good break in the action. But it's a pretty cool song if you listen to it. There's a lot going on, especially for like 1980 with the band's first album. Listen to the solo in this song. The solo in this song is Dennis Stratton does the first one, and Dave Murray does the second one. The soloing is absolutely fantastic in this song, and I like when Paul goes into that lower, like that softer register too.
I do too.
I dig this song. It was back in the day. I was like, oh, I want to rock in this and that, but then I can appreciate it more now. I dig this one.
Well, you're getting old, so yeah.
I am absolutely.
Yeah, I love this one too. It starts slow with those interplaying guitar arpeggios with the warping effects on them. Pink Floyd, that's kind of funny. But I get that. And the bass is kind of restrained, but it creates a moody atmosphere. And Deano again shows he can do a pretty good job singing these slow ones. Like you said, Steve, I'm basically repeating everything you're saying. Those solos are awesome. They're vibrato soaked. They're excellent lead breaks. I always thought this was about vampires coming, especially with it coming straight out of Transylvania. Because in the lyrics, the girls are drinking plasma wine, and when you're living there, you'll never grow old. So I always thought this was like a vampire tune. It's kind of creepy and it's kind of cool.
Absolutely, that's a good one. So now, on the regular European one, you didn't get this song, but us on the United States, we got lucky. We got this song, Sanctuary. Like I said, not available on the original UK version, but we got it here in the great old US of A. I've always loved this song. This song was always aces for me. And then how it kicks in is great. I saw Maiden in 1983, and they played this, and I could still just remember that rawness of the guitars on that song. And this is another one that you get a little background vocals in there too. The solo absolutely tears it up. Dennis Stratton plays the solo on this one on the album, and you get it from Adrian Smith when they play it live now. But just listen to the bass on this song too. Just absolutely fantastic. It's just a fantastic song. Paul's vocals are gruff, but they fit really well on here. You even get that siren effect when it comes back in there, like kind of a crappy sounding siren, but we have good sirens here in the U.S., so they didn't have a really lot of good siren selection, I think, in the U.K. at that time. So I'll just leave that one at that. So give me Sanctuary from the Law, and I'll be all right. Just one of my favorite classic Maiden songs, and I like too when they do it live. You get that because it's on. Rock in Rio, the version where they do that, and they were even doing that portion of it back when I saw them in '83.
Yes. So this one is interesting because it was originally a non-album single, and it was actually written by former guitarist Rob Angelo, and the band paid him £300 for the song's rights. And and now the song is credited to Iron Maiden. And this single got a lot of attention for its cover. It was Eddie holding a bloody knife and crouching over the corpse of British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. At the time.
But
yeah.
I actually have that in my hand.
Cover?
I have it in my hand. And
is it the censored one or the uncensored one?
No. What's the censored one?
The censored one, they put a black bar over her face.
No, there's no black bar there. But if you look at it, he killed her because she was tearing down an Iron Maiden live poster.
How dare she?
That's why she got it. But no, this one is the uncensored one, and it has Sanctuary and Prowler on side 1, and on side 2 it has Drifter and I've Got the Fire, song from Montrose on side 2 live.
I'm jealous, dude. I want that single. So like I said, later they did censor her face, but it was enough to get the single to number 29 on the UK singles chart, so it worked. And then they just kind of threw it on the American version of the album, and it just became a permanent track in the digital age. And then they remastered the Maiden catalog in 2015. They dropped it from the first album again, even in North America. So there you have it. I mean, all this shit that you do, switching tracks and all that stuff, man, it's a pain in the ass to keep track of. But this has that raw punk sound again. Fast tempo, insistent riff. The guitarists trade excellent solos. They always play excellent solos.
Yeah.
It's about the same guy running from the law after killing a woman. I mean, this is just a blast of energy. Sorry, Steve Harris. It's a punk tune, really.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then we get part 1 of the Charlotte the Harlot saga, if you will. Charlotte the Harlot. Good rockin' song about her favorite hooker from London. Fast tempo song. I kind of like the chorus. Yeah, kind of cool. Bruce would, like I said before, Bruce would re-record this one in 1988. I actually like this one better. It's not a favorite song on the album for me. I like it, but I don't love it. Tempo change for the solo is really cool. The solos absolutely fucking rip. It would be cool to see them bust this out as a surprise tune right now.
I agree.
But lyrically, this one is like. It's kind of crazy that the Me Too movement would not like this song at all.
No.
Taking so many men to your room, don't you feel no remorse? You charge them $5, but it's only for starters. 10 for the main course. There's just some crazy things there. Charlotte, you left me alone in there to make your ends as a bloody whore. Charlotte, you told me you loved me true, picking up pieces of love yesterday. You know what I mean? It's just like there's a lot of stuff. And this one, I think, has the most lyrics of any song on this album because there's literally like 4 verses in here besides the chorus. But I mean, it does. It's a rockin' song. It's you get that soft part. But and I remember watching. I think it was the Maiden first 10 years that remember that video collection that came out, and they had this live from I think maybe like the Marquee or the Ruskin Arms, I think, live, and it was cool to see them play this live because I mean the crowd. That was when, remember the videos, the people in the crowd would bring they'd make cardboard electric guitars and they'd be playing them in the audience and shit. And like when they're playing these, you could see them holding them up in the air and stuff like that. I mean, that must have been, imagine seeing these guys in a club back in the day. That would have been fucking crazy.
Yeah. Yes. Well, this track is interesting because it's one of the few solely written by Dave Murray. This is his track. And like you said, the saga of Charlotte begins here. She's a prostitute who the narrator kind of looks down on for taking in so many men, while the music slams along with a stuttering riff. Then the middle section slows down and the narrator reveals that they were once a couple and Charlotte left him to become a lady of the evening, and he's bitter towards her. Then the music kicks back in and Charlotte swishes her ass and has her feet in the air and all that good stuff, the stuff that you were talking about, Steve. Charlotte would be an ongoing character in Maiden mythology. She would appear in 3 other songs by the band. Dave Murray said she was based on a true story. Steve, we're really in sync with this album because this was a track that I didn't care. This was always been my least favorite track, and it still kind of is, but it grew on me. I love it now, but it's still, if I have to rank the songs, this is probably still my least favorite, but now I really like it as opposed to being kind of meh about it.
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't hate it, but it's probably.
I would love to see this live too.
It would
like to see this live. Hear this live.
I mean, and man, they're another band. I mean, they do mix up their tours. They don't play the same, however many songs every tour, but they're making it more difficult for themselves to play more songs because their songs are inherently getting longer on all these
Yes.
newer albums. I love the epic stuff. I love it, but they're kind of handcuffing themselves into playing less songs live just because of the length of the songs. But like,
Yeah, it's
you know,
a blessing and a curse.
yeah. I mean, imagine Maiden saying, you know, we're going to come out, we're going to do a tour. We're not going to do any song over 7 minutes.
Yeah.
That would be just fucking amazing.
Well, didn't they do that legacy tour where they only played the songs off the first 4 albums, right? I mean, that
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much would,
yeah.
yeah.
But I mean,
that
like,
probably would be similar to it.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, that'd be cool, for sure. But it's just like a thing that popped into my head. We closed the album out with the band track Iron Maiden. We all know this one. We've heard it in every single Iron Maiden show. That I'm sure they probably have never not played this song since this album came out, or I'm sure like even way before that. But I like when you get the single guitar, and then the other guitar joins in. Then you get the bass joins in doing the same thing, and then it rock. I just the kicking in this song is just fucking amazing because you get the one guitar, then 2 guitars, then the bass, and then all. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just the way it just brings in the whole band. They're representing the whole band, like right even in the very beginning of the song, because you get the drum roll and you get the rock and roll. You know what I mean? You get all 5 members of the band in the first like 20 seconds of the song. The pre-chorus, I love the pre-chorus. Oh well, whatever. I love that. It's just I don't know. It's a great song. It's fun. It's one that I don't get sick of. It's not like a rock and roll night for me because I mean this is one, like, let's face it, you don't hear it on the radio. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just don't. It's not as, you don't get that fatigue factor with this one either. But I love it when a band can do this, and this is one for me that like if Judas Priest did a song named Judas Priest, I think it would be stupid. You know what I mean? Although I think Anthrax has a song called Judas Priest on one of their last albums, right? And I was like, but like this fits these guys. It really does. Medieval torture device. Very cool. And they even used it. Remember that Raising Hell video where they used that in there. That Simon something or other dude was the Simon Drake was the magician illusionist guy that was in on that show, which was different but kind of cool. And you had Bruce and the Iron Maiden at the end of it, and so just a killer ending. And this song belongs nowhere but at the end of this first album. I mean, I don't think it would have had the impact if it was like track 4.
Right.
Absolutely.
So just like Black Sabbath, they have a self-titled theme song. The song Iron Maiden on the album Iron Maiden by the band Iron Maiden. And it's been, like you said, it's been played at every single Maiden gig since the tune was written. And it's a good thing. It's a badass song with that unmistakable opening riff. And then the driving beat comes in. And Deano really snarls the vocals. He's awesome on this. The lyrics are about a twisted dude who wants to put you in his Iron Maiden torture device. It's like a coffin with spikes in it, and would just stab you and you'd slowly bleed to death. And it's also about the band itself. You quoted this a little bit. Oh, well, wherever you are, Iron Maiden's gonna get you, no matter how far. Oh, yes, they will.
You know what? The music I was describing was from fucking Drifter, not fucking Iron Maiden. I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about? So disregard all that I said, but it does. You do get.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, you do get that. But that's Drifter. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry because I'm looking at I have the single.
He's going, like, what's he doing?
Yeah. So, that was it though. So,
all right, let's talk about Women in Uniform before we take a break. Before we go to the gem songs.
Okay.
So now we've covered the first Maiden record, Outstanding, and we're going to move on now to the next single, which is Women in Uniform. Released October 27th, 1980. It was the band's 3rd single, and it's the last recorded work for Dennis Stratton. What do you think of this one, Steve?
I thought this was a cool song. I didn't realize when it came out that it was a cover song. And by Skyhooks, I think the name of the band
Yes.
that originally did that was. And you've seen the video for it too, right?
Yes.
Okay. Very, primitive video, but some cool live performance scenes there. It's got that sort of doom, dan, da, da, da. It's got that cool stomping feel at the beginning there. I like Paul's vocals on this one too. There's got like a cool, intense feel to them. The chorus is great. It's a catchy song. It's a maybe, I don't know if you want to call it a little too catchy, a little too poppy for Iron Maiden, maybe. But like a cool departure, especially after the getting your ass handed to you on that full first album. I don't know, was this a ploy to get them on regular radio? I don't know the thought process behind doing this, but I think it's pretty cool. There's no real solo in it, but I think it's a fun song. You get a great scream at the end from Paul Di'Anno. There's some really cool leads at the end as it's playing out, and it kind of fades out. But on the video, I like where you get that and the Eddie's sitting up on the gurney
Yes.
when the nurses are taking care of him. But pretty cool. I don't hate it. I think it's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, it's a cover of an Australian band, like you said, Skyhooks, and I forgot all about this track. I mean, I hadn't heard it in a long time before preparing for this podcast, and now I remember why, because it sucks. It's got this slow gallop in the verses, but that chorus is just way too poppy, and it just sounds so out of place. So I listened to the Skyhooks version, and yep, that sucks too. I just really don't like this song. The only thing I could think of is like they were doing this as a joke or trying to get, on the radio, which I think that's probably what the purpose was. The coolest thing about this single is as the cover for that, which shows like Eddie walking down the street with a woman on each arm, and Margaret Thatcher has got a gun waiting for him around the corner. That's the coolest thing I think about this track. It did reach, though, number 35 on the UK singles chart, so what the hell do I know? All right, now let's take a little bit of a break and play our gem song of the week. Steve, you let me pick it. I chose a band called Night Demon, a California power trio that's heavily influenced by Iron Maiden. You can't mistake it when you hear their sound. They've got 5 albums out and 1 EP. All of them are solid listens, and they just put out their new record, Outsider, in March 2023. So I picked the track Rebirth off the new album.
As it was foreshadowed, I find my time.
All right, that was Rebirth by Night Demon off of their new album Outsiders. Steve, did you listen to it? What do you think?
I did. I enjoy Night Demon. I have. I don't have any physical copy of those guys, but I do have their catalog on my Apple Music, and I think they're good. We talked about them a little bit before we recorded. They have. They're just a 3-piece, so
yeah,
real cool band. I would say kind of Maiden-like, but none of the epic stuff. It's all short songs.
Yeah, some of their stuff sounds uncannily like me. You go, holy cow, that's exactly like Maiden.
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds more like the stuff we're talking about today than like the later stuff.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's cool. All right, now let's give our hidden gems. What do you got, Steve?
Okay, yeah, my gem could be it could be 1, 2, or 3 gems if you will. But right now it's out on streaming as a real live dead one. It's Iron Maiden. It's actually it's 2 live albums that they put out. A real live one, which was the first one to come out, has our friend Eddie tearing apart a couple power cables, and the real live one has it was the first one to come out, so it was songs from from Fear of the Dark on, like Fear of the Dark. Actually, there's a couple of songs from I think up to like Seventh Son to Scott. Be Quick or Be Dead, From Here to Eternity, Can I Play with Madness, Wasting Love, Tail Gunner, The Evil That Men Do, Afraid to Shoot Strangers, Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, Heaven Can Wait, The Clairvoyant, and Fear of the Dark. And that one came out in March 22nd of 1993. And then in October of the same year, Real Dead one came out, which is the really cool cover where Eddie's like in the DJ booth with the microphone coming down, and he's screaming, and it has 666 Hell Radio behind him. And so on that one, the tracks are, and this was the one I was most interested in because it had the earlier stuff. Yeah. Number of the Beast, The Trooper, Prowler, Transylvania, Remember Tomorrow, Where Eagles Dare, Sanctuary, Running Free, Run to the Hills, 2 Minutes of Midnight, Iron Maiden, Hell Be Thy Name. So when they came out separately, and I have my original copies here, and this one of them deals where the CD cover is like the one arm of the top gets smashed off, and they're kind of flopping all over the place, and the little spokes on the inside that hold the CDs in there get all fucked up and shit. So the CDs kind of flop around in there too. But and now they're on Apple Music, probably Spotify too, and known as a real live dead one. And it has all them songs on there. And that's if you want to judge if Bruce sings the stuff from the first 2 albums better than Paul. This is a good way to make that evaluation on these here. But I mean, I have the hard copies, and I think it's available on vinyl. But I believe that it's a picture. They're picture discs. There's like 2 different picture discs, and I believe they're rather expensive. I haven't looked into them lately. They're one of the very few Maidens that I don't have. So
they've got to be, because I don't even know if they reissued them.
Yeah, so it's a special picture disc. I've seen them on eBay a couple times, and then they've been hard to find. Yeah,
they would be hard to find. Very cool. My hidden gem, I got this from YouTube. I just stumbled across it. It's Motorhead covering The Trooper, which I'd never heard before.
Oh, cool.
It comes off a 2 CD anthology package from 2006 called Damage Case. It's just credited to Lemmy as opposed to Motorhead. But basically, the collection covers Lemmy's entire career, like from the 60s through Hawkwind, through Motorhead to the mid 2000s. It's got a lot of weird songs on it and cover tunes. So it's an interesting collection. But Motorhead doing The Trooper, BC, come on, it's the shit.
Very cool.
We've got Steve's hidden gem is a real live dead one on streaming. It's combining 2 live Maiden albums from the early mid 90s, and I've got Motorhead doing The Trooper. Check them out. So in October 1980, Iron Maiden parts ways with Dennis Stratton over, musical differences. I guess they really were musical differences.
Yes.
After they opened for Kiss on the European Unmasked tour that you referenced before, Steve. And Dave Murray's old bandmate, Adrian Smith, from a few bands actually, but most recently the band Urchin, is brought in to replace him. And these two form the Maiden Guitar Attack for the next 10 years. And that will lead us into the second album, Killers, released on February 16th, 1981 on EMI Records. It was produced by veteran producer Martin Birch, who produced Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Rainbow, Whitesnake, awesome albums. And he would produce the next 8 Maiden albums after this one. This was recorded from November 1980 to January 1981 at Battery Studios, Northwest London. The album reached number 12 on the UK Albums Chart, as well as number 78 on the US Billboard 200 chart, and it's certified gold by both the UK and the US. So we've got another album cover. What about this one?
Yeah, this one is a little more, I don't know if you want to say intricate, and a little more graphic than the last one. It has our friend Eddie. He's got a little hairstyle. He got rid of the bedhead here. He's bulked up a little bit. Doesn't seem as anorexic as on the first one. He's got the axe with dripping blood, and he's got the one hand kind of going to grab you, but then you have two hands like grabbing his shirt, like he just axed this person, and they're kind of just grabbing onto him to get a last grasp of dying there.
Yeah, as they're dying.
Yeah. It's got a building in the background there. You can see someone peeking out the window in the one. You can see someone making out naked in the bottom one. There's a kitty in the one window. The little Derek Riggs symbol in the one window. Then you have the same street light, though. It looks like the same street lights we had in the last one. Another building in the background there. You got Ruskin Arms, where Maiden has famously played a bunch of times, as one of the places. There's I don't know if it says Kinky Sex Shop, but it says Sex Shop on the one store. And the other one I can't quite tell. Beat Merchant, I think. So I think that may have been one of the music stores that they maybe frequented or got equipment from back in the day. So I'm not really sure. Back cover's got a cool live picture of those guys playing, and it has individual pictures and stuff, and track names, and it's even got a picture of Martin Headmaster Birch on the back cover as well. So really cool cover, iconic. This is one that you see this one more than you see the first cover. I think you probably, next to Number of the Beast, I think this is probably the one you get that you see the most. I would say. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely iconic. You could make a case that this is one of, if not the best Maiden album cover. It fits perfectly for the album title, Killers. I mean, Eddie's looking at you. Instead of going, this time he's like,
yep.
He's holding a bloody hatchet or whatever, and his victim's like grabbing at his shirt like, well, he's dying. And you described it perfectly. I don't got to go much more into that. The street light, the dark sky again. This is just, it's iconic. There's no other way for me to describe it. It's amazing. So, Steve, how'd you come across this record, or where do you come in with this?
Yeah, I picked this one up. I want to say I got this one probably after Number of the Beast, because I think I picked up, like I said, I had Maiden Japan. Then Rob picked up Number of the Beast for me. So then I think I went back. I think I got Killers next, and then the first album. So then by the time I had those, Peace of Mind was coming out. So I had a good, solid Maiden basis at that time. And I was, and that obviously at that time you're making comparisons between, Bruce and Paul Di'Anno, and and like, back then I was all Team Bruce. This other guy, the songs are good, but and like, as we'll go along here through this, you're going to see how they evolve, but we're able to appreciate these albums more now, I think, further down the road like we are now.
Yeah. Well, because I really came into Maiden with, the first album I heard was Peace of Mind, but I really came into them with Somewhere in Time. The next album I got was Live After Death. I think it was that Christmas of '86 or something like, I'm probably screwing up the timeline, but I think I got it that Christmas. And from there I worked backwards, but I got the Bruce albums first, all the Bruce albums. So as far as I was concerned, Bruce Dickinson was the singer of Iron Maiden, and I had heard that they'd had a prior singer. So then I just, at some point, I'm still like, teenager, maybe my early 20s. I went and I bought the first two CDs. I had CDs by that point. I got them at the same time. So, there's I don't distinguish between the two, and I just listen to them both. And at first, when I heard Paul's voice, I was like, oh, wow, that's really different. But I think the more I listened to it, and I listened to how different the music was than the Dickinson era, it made more sense to me. And I really grew to love Paul Di'Anno's voice, which I still do to this day. So, it's no big, crazy story how I just came. I just bought it because I was completing the collection. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it too. I think one of the main shifts besides Bruce being on Number of the Beast after Killers is Adrian Smith.
Yes,
because from what I understand, most of the songs I don't think there's any writing credits for anybody but Steve Harris and Paul Di'Anno on the first two albums. But
yes,
you have Adrian Smith as well coming in, doing some writing, thought process and all that on Number of the Beast. So I think that was big part of the shift as well, with
sure.
Adrian Smith coming in the band as well as Bruce. And I think that was a big shift in the song because, I mean,
that's a great point, because almost all the tracks on both of these albums were written prior to Maiden forming.
Right.
So, they had all these songs for a long time. They only wrote 2 specifically for Killers.
Right. And I think it was a great opportunity for Steve Harris to say, okay, I don't have the full workload. He may feel different, but I think it's once they're into Bruce and Adrian Smith, it's more of a band than just Steve Harris's band.
Right.
So let's go track by track. Why don't you kick us off on this one?
All right. So we lead things off with the Ides of March. This is interesting in that when this was written in 1977, the drummer in Maiden at the time was a guy known as Thunderstick, who after his departure from Maiden, he would go on to join the band Samson, which also happens to be where Clive Burr came from. He came from Samson, and the singer was one Bruce, real name Bruce Dickinson. And that guy would become pretty important to the Maiden story, which we'll get into in the next edition of this series. So Samson records this tune almost note for note as the same as the Ides of March, and they call it Thunderburst. It's on their album Head On, which was released in 1980. So prior to this, and as far as I can tell, nobody seems to give a shit about it because I haven't heard about any lawsuits, so there you go. This is just a short instrumental with rolling Marshall drums and nice guitar harmony lines. I like it. It's kind of like an intro to the album, and then, the following track, Wrathchild.
Yeah, Ides of March, and Steve Harris has broadened my horizons as far as I'm concerned throughout the years, because you hear stuff like Ides of March. What the fuck is that? Of course, I knew what it was, but I did look it up. For anyone that doesn't, it's the 74th day in the Roman calendar, corresponding to March 15th. It was marked by several religious observances and was notable in Rome as a deadline for settling debts. In 44 BC, it became notorious as the date of the assassination of Julius Caesar, which made the Ides of March a turning point in Roman history. So there's your
little Brute.
Yeah, Tu Brute. So that gives you your Steve Harris history lesson of the year. But I like this. I don't usually like intros, but I don't really consider this an intro. It's just a mini instrumental song because there's literally like guitar solos in it. They're short, but the soloing just tears it up. There's some ripping in this one, and it's a perfect lead into our next song, buddy.
You don't like intros. Have you listened to Maiden's records the last 20 years?
I know. Like it depends. Maiden I don't mind much, but like there's ones like the beginning of Tooth and Nail. Like, oh, come on, just get into the fucking song.
I get it. All right, so let's move into the first song proper, Wrathchild, written by Steve Harris. Have we mentioned what a monster bass player Steve Harris is? He just leads us off into a short, punchy, punky tune that's just going to knock out your fillings. It hits you so hard. You can tell the difference in production, though, and the chemistry between Murray and Smith, it's immediately apparent. You pick right up on it. Lyrically, it's about a guy born into hardship and searching for his absent father, and he sounds a little pissed off. Di'Anno's vocals are fantastic on this. Absolute Maiden classic. They play it frequently throughout their career. I've seen them play it many times. I love it.
Yeah, that bass intro to it is just you hear that, and that's another one that kind of sends a little chill up your spine. And it really, I mean, like I said, Ides of March just rips, but this really gets the album moving. It's fast, aggressive. Paul's vocals are great. Great intensity in the song. I'm always glad to see this one live. I don't mind it. But this is one, too, that I really like Martin Birch's production of the drum sound on this album. Clive Burr's drums on this and the next one, which will be his last, I think they're a little more out front. And
yeah, they jump out at you.
Yep, and you hear a lot more of the drum fills and stuff in these songs. And Paul's scream is really good. The second solo, it's just, there's a lot going on in this song if you really throw them headphones on and listen to it. It's just it's killer. It's one of them songs that you just kind of feel violated if you don't get to see it live.
And yeah, when you see it live, you can't help but scream Rothschild.
Yeah.
yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so let's move on to Murders in the Rue Morgue. Here's the literary Maiden again. It's loosely based on the short story by Edgar Allan Poe, which was considered one of the first detective stories. This kind of feels like a Maiden epic, even though it's under 4.5 minutes, because it's got that slowly unfolding intro, and then it takes off with a fast-paced riff that just rips along. Di'Anno's voice is agitated as he sings about a man running from the French gendarmes for the murder of 2 girls that he didn't commit. And like so many great Maiden tunes, it's got tempo and rhythmic shifts. It's got great solos, and it's just a great fucking track. I love it. How about you?
Yeah, this song is killer. You get that kind of metal guitar in the beginning there with the bass. Like it kind of reminds you a little bit of the Ides of March, the way it kind of comes in the beginning. Then that drum roll comes in. I remember seeing this live at the, I don't know, might have been a Hammersmith show, I think, with Bruce doing it. And like when that drum roll comes in, Bruce like comes running on the stage. I always picture that. This is one of them songs that I think is tough to sing. Like there's a lot of lyrics in this one.
Yes.
I remember plain as day, although it happened in the dark of the night, I was strolling through the streets of Prairie, it was cold, it started to rain. Like that's sung like at like fucking light speed. So there's parts where he kind of mouths some things, I think. But I don't know how you cannot not sing this song like that. It's got to be a tough one to sing. I love the pickup where now I got to get away from the arms of the law. All the France is looking for me. I got to get across the border for sure, down south to Italy. It took me the longest time to figure out what the fuck that last part said. So there's some crazy, vocal stuff going on there. I love the pace of this. This song just rocks. This is a favorite classic. Not my favorite, but one of my favorite classic Maiden songs. Another one that I've never gotten to see this one played live. I would go out of my fucking mind if they did. Some dual guitars for the solos. I love this song. I think it's fantastic. And after Wrathchild, you got 3 punches to the face like right off the bat on this album.
So let's move on to Another Life. Clive Burr plays a sweet Tom Phil intro that just goes into another fast, heavy track that's got a sort of instrumental guitar-many. It doesn't have a real chorus, but it's got an instrumental guitar-many chorus that it makes this track a little bit unusual, but it's still pretty solid. The middle section has a new riff pattern, and then it just goes crazy punk for a bit before returning to the basic structure of the track. The lyrics have a suicidal kind of vibe to them, as the guy lying in his bed is tired of living and just might as well end today. This one, honestly, is not a favorite of mine, but I don't hate it. I don't skip it. I still dig it.
Yeah, Another Life. Some cool tom-tom rolls at the beginning there. The dual guitars play, kicks into the main riff. There's a little bit of layered shredding going on in there. I like the vocal cadence of this one. It's the song just jams. It's more of a hard rock song, I think, than a metal song. Musically, it kind of reminds me of where they go with The Prisoner, with the guitar harmonies and stuff. It's a good one. I really like this track. I'm not on board with you of not a favorite track in this one, but this is another one too where I mentioned before on the first album where it's the same verse 3 times in the song, and that's it. And like you said, there's no real chorus, but I dig this one. And this is the song that when they would play it live, that Clive would do his drum solo during.
Nice.
And every once in a while on Jim Florentine's show, he'll play the live version of this with the little drum solo, and it's actually pretty cool.
I'd like to hear that. So let's move on to Genghis Khan, and we got another instrumental. This one starts as a heavy metal march with the martial drums and the guitars and bass all playing in tandem. And then it breaks down to a fast as fuck section with Burr really working that ride cymbal. And then it goes into the Maiden Gallop with reverb guitar harmony lines. I mean, they changed stuff up enough in this to keep it interesting. You know, it's an instrumental. It's not a major track, but I like this one a lot.
Yeah, this one's pretty cool, Genghis Khan. It's kind of weird with 2 instrumentals already, and we're only on the 5th song. This one's more of a mid-tempo one. It's not as like jamming as like you get through the whole song of like Transylvania. Like more chord based, I think, than lead playing. I don't mind it. I like that the tempo kicks up a few notches around a minute in. Drums are killer, and there's some really fast drumming here. And Clive Burr was not a double bass player, but there's a lot of fast kick drum playing in this song, and I think he really nails it on there. You get dual guitars like for the solo there. The song kind of deconstructs at the end. The end is kind of different. I think it's kind of cool. Not a favorite on the album, but not bad. It's not a skipper, but not bad.
So let's move on to the last song on side 1, Innocent Exile. The bass intro I really loved. And then it goes into a mid-tempo rocker that, I pretty much forget this one as soon as it's over. It's another one that doesn't have a chorus. It's another I'm confused and running from the law because I was framed for murder tune. And honestly, this one really, of both albums, this is the only track where I kind of go, meh.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I love this one. And maybe because it's one of the tracks on Maiden Japan. I think that has a lot to do with it. I love that. You're right. I love that. Like very cool at the beginning how he does that. The drums kick in. There's like an intense riff underneath it. I like the time change when he goes into the like I'm running away part. Then you get that bass part in the song again like that at the beginning there. Killer tempo change for the solo with like both guys tear it up in that one, Adrian and Dave Murray, which hands down these two are my favorite guitar duo in the world. Nothing will ever change that. It's even better now that Yannick Gears is thrown in there, but just these guys are how you do it. I think there's so many bands that probably model themselves after these guys, and you know, first album with these guys. And I don't know if it's just my love for Adrian Smith like saying this, but I think you could feel these guys playing together more than even on this album than with Dennis Stratton and Dave Murray on the first album.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
But they already knew each other. They played together for a long time prior. So
You get, I don't know if it's just that familiarity or what, I don't know, but I gotta go against you on this one. I really love Innocent Exile.
I'm probably in the minority. I'm sure I am. But yeah, the Smith and Murray have that chemistry.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's so important to a band. And it's really apparent on this album. All right, so let's head on over to side 2. And oh, yes, the title track, Killers. This one is different because it was written by Paul Di'Anno and Steve Harris. Now, to me, this is what Innocent Exile wishes it was. It's fast. Harris bass leads the way again. This one's got different sections that switch rhythms. We get a fast gallop. It's got a nice guitar harmony section, awesome solos. Di'Anno's delivery is sinister, and he gets in some great screams. It's got high drama and an epic scope to it. And the lyrics switch perspective from third person to first person about a killer stalking his victims in the subway. I love this one. This is my favorite track on the album. This is one of my favorite Iron Maiden tracks of all time.
Yeah, this song is, it's aptly named because this song is fucking killer as well as the name is Killers. You get that bass and hi-hats start there, clean guitar, then Paul Di'Anno screams that, it completes the build-up, that descending guitar lead thing is friggin' fantastic.
Sounds so cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Paul's vocals are fantastic on this one, and I love the pace of the song. The pace is fantastic. It's got a weird feel to it, but it's cool.
Creepy.
It does.
Yeah.
The solo section, Time Change is great. The solos tear it up. You get that stop start during the second solo, and it is a fantastic song. The vocals are great, and there's a version of this that I saw on a Maiden live. I think it's live at the Rainbow. I think that it was. I'm sure it's on YouTube, where Paul comes out and what he sings is not what's on the album. It's like lyrically, like, because I heard it, I'm like, what the hell is he singing? It was not like so, but I'm not sure if it was before the album or if they were just trying the song out. I don't know, but it's different lyrics from what you have on the album. But it was cool to hear. It was like, wow, it was very cool. And the version that they do on the one from the Seventh Son tour, that when they do that, there's a version of Killers on that is fantastic, and I don't mind Bruce singing it, but I love how Paul sings this song.
I do too, and I love how he sings on this studio track. Like, we're gonna see it later on in Maiden Japan too, but I like how in this studio track, like, he goes, like, attack,
yeah.
And then he'll go like, what have I done? He doesn't sing it like that when he sings it live. He does like certain vocal inflections that he does on the studio track that I think really sells it for me.
Yep.
Okay, so since we are doing the American version of the album, we are going to cover Twilight Zone. This was originally released in the UK as the first single for the album on March 2nd, 1981, as a double A-side with Rothschild, even though it didn't appear on the UK edition of the album. But it was added to the American version that came out in June. Go figure on all that shit. It did reach number 31 on the UK singles chart and number 31 on the US mainstream rock tracks chart. So I guess it was worth it to do that. This has got an insistent riff. It's got a sweet guitar harmony line over the top of it and a fast shuffle beat. Di'Anno really reaches for some of the notes at the top of his register. That final, like, at the end really cracks me up when he gets there. The lyrics are about a ghost being trapped in purgatory for 3 years, watching his girl and being miserable and crying over her. It's got a different feel, but I really dig this track.
Yeah, I totally forgot about this, and Aaron, thank you for bringing it up when we were talking about doing this episode. I totally forgot that it was on the album, and I had to go to YouTube to listen to it because I don't have a version of this even on any of my my 12-inch singles or anything like that. So I had to go back to YouTube to check it out, and I totally forgot. It's a short song, short little rocker, cool guitar. It's got like a really skipping short kind of riff in it. The drum roll kicks in, and this is another song that the vocals are fast too. That must be tough. I'll tell you, I was thinking about it. This is a song that, like, you could play Rock Band and be the singer, and you could scat the vocals and probably score 100% on it.
You probably could.
Yeah. You could definitely do that. But like I said, it's a short song, no real solo, just kind of a dual guitar part that has some really cool drums underneath. It's fun. I hate that they didn't put this on the album. It's not like it's a crazy long album where it wouldn't fit. So I don't know.
Right. Well, we did get it though, so you know what I mean. So
yeah, so I
don't know what they pulled it off again, but I don't know.
Yeah, so I must have got like a second. Oh no, actually, shit, it is on my album. It's not on streaming. It is on my album. God, I should have played the fucking album.
You should listen to the vinyl, dude.
I didn't have time. I totally forgot it was on there, but it is.
This
on,
also
it is on
I
my
forgot to add that this was written by Dave Murray and Steve Harris, so that's a important distinction too.
Absolutely,
I think that's another reason why it's a little bit different.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to Prodigal Son. This was the other track that was written specifically for this album. It wasn't like one of the older tracks that they kind of brought back for the second record. So here's the ballad. It's got jingling guitar arpeggios and acoustic strumming. And of course, the bass is flowing up and down. It's got an easy shuffle beat. The chorus builds up and hangs in the air on purpose, and I like that. The traded solos are emotional and they're excellent. Once again, Deano shows he can handle a softer material. The lyrics seem to be about a guy who messed around with black magic, and now he's scared the devil's going to take his soul, and he's asking for help from Lamia, and whether that's a person's name or the mythical monster, I don't know. I guess it probably wouldn't be the monster. It wouldn't make much sense, I guess. But I really dig this one, too. This is another highlight for me.
Yeah, you know what? And this is another one, too, that back in the day, I'm like, this blows. But now, I love it. It's fantastic. It's another palate cleanser, another one that kind of gives you a little breather, a little time out. But very cool with the acoustic guitars. I think it has a like Led Zeppelin gallows pole kind of feel a little bit to it, maybe. And it's not an acoustic track. It's like an upper tempo, acoustic backed track. Definitely a different song for Maiden. This is what, if you want to call it the strange world of this album. But I like the feel of it. It's a fantastic deep track. I love the dun 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 dun. But then the bass is do 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 do, like cool, like how it's musically it's fantastic. If Maiden never did an Unplugged and they didn't do this song, I would be pissed, because this would be perfect for them to do totally unplugged. And imagine them doing this with the three of them playing guitar on this. It would just be friggin' mind-blowing, I think. Really good solo.
Deano really sells this one too.
Yeah, he does. And he can pull this lighter stuff off, absolutely. You get both Dave and Adrian soloing on it. The production really shines on this track because you could hear everything, and it's mixed perfectly, and just a great, awesome deep track.
Yes, I agree. Did Bruce ever do this one?
Not that I know of. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say probably not, but I could be. They've been doing this for 40 years, so hard to tell.
Who knows?
Because this is right, one of the few songs that they didn't play live.
Out there, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to Purgatory. This one, it's fast as hell. It's almost thrash. I mean, it boggles my mind. How does Steve Harris play the bass so fast with his fingers sometimes? It's just incredible. The main riff is punchy. It slams you in the face. Deano's nearly out of breath. He's singing so fast. It's another one, Steve, where he's singing fast. He's trying to keep up with it. The bridge section features Clive Burr thumping those drums while the guitar harmony lines snake around him, and the bass just keeps up the pace. Lyrically, it seems to be about another spirit trapped in purgatory and struggling with his memories of past lives and thoughts of lives to come in another time and another place, like he's going to be reincarnated again or something. I don't know. This song is a ripper. I love it.
Yeah, this song just friggin' cranks. Back, like I said, back to the rocking. And this is an especially violent punch in the face, especially after the last song. Lots of fast playing in there. Bands on all 4 cylinders, or 5 cylinders, if you will. I forgot how much I like. I got to this point listening to both the albums back to back the other day, and I'm like, I totally forgot or didn't realize how much I liked Paul Di'Anno's vocals on these 2 albums. They fit great for the song. There's a ton of shredding on this song, but I like the "Please Take Me Away" then you get the do like the bass is, and you're right. How can Steve Harris play like that? It's just insane. And the drums and the bass underneath that part is just fantastic. And I literally have in here, this has to be a tough song to sing. The lines are so goddamn fast in there, but just a fantastic freaking deep track, just absolutely killer. That'd be another one, like in a top 10 or 15 songs that you would love to see them playing. Like a deep track list would be freaking great.
Yeah, I'd love to see them play this. So we are on to the final track, Drifter. And we get one more fast track. It's got a churning riff and a walking bass, which is really cool. You don't hear that a lot from Steve Harris. While Burr is holding it all together with his loose swinging drums. And then it slows down in the middle solo section, and then it builds back up faster and faster, and all the players just like lose their shit before falling back into that last verse. The outro solo is wah-wah drenched, and the lyrics seem to be about a traveling musician sleeping with a chick and drifting off to the next town. He's got to keep roaming and singing his song. It's a solid rocking album closer.
Yeah, this is it. I have fantastic album closer, but solid, fantastic album closer. This was a show.
Riff go, Steve? How's that riff go?
This is the one I fucked up before, and I was talking about Iron Maiden. But just a great song. This one rocks. They played this when I saw them live. I specifically remember them playing this live when I saw them in '83. Absolutely killer. There's a slowdown and some bluesy playing, and then a great, like that build back into the song is great. I'd love to see them bust this one out again too. Solos are killer in it. Just an amazing album ender, and and this was one too that they did an album like crowd participation thing, like whoa 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 whoa, like that Bruce did as like one of the last songs in the show. But just I remember this one like it was yesterday when I saw them play it live. I mean, and it was one of the few that I can remember like really well. Like there's a couple songs from that show I could like cherry pick out of there that I specifically remember tons about it. And other ones are like ones that you've seen throughout the years, like like they played Drifter, they played Sanctuary, which you still get, but like To Tame a Land, Where Eagles Dare, songs like that you didn't really get throughout the years. But Drifter is fantastic and a great way to end the album. And it was, I think it's a great final song for Paul Di'Anno on an album.
I agree. So before we wrap up this episode, we got to talk about the live Maiden Japan EP, which was released September 14th, 1981, from a concert recorded in Nagoya, Japan on May 23rd, 1981. It reached number 43 on the UK Albums Chart and number 89 on the US Billboard 200 chart. The original Japanese EP had 4 tracks, but the international version, which is what I had, I assume you did too, Steve.
Yeah, I have it in my hand. Yep.
It also had 2 different album covers. The original had Eddie holding up Paul Di'Anno's severed head, which was a joke, but their manager, Rod Smallwood, actually he's a big figure in the Maiden story too.
Oh yeah.
He had Derek Riggs. Can't speak. Smallwood had Derek Riggs change the album cover for reasons that will become clear later on, to Eddie just brandishing a samurai sword, which is what I always had. That's what I saw when I stumbled across this on cassette, and I got it at the record store. I was like, wow, more Maiden. And I think we talked about this prior to going live, but I'm not sure this was ever released on CD. Or you said you saw it on bootlegs?
Yeah, actually, on bootleg you could get the whole show.
Yeah,
which I'll talk about that in a minute. And I literally have that EP in my hand here on the vinyl version of it, and it's got Special Offer Mini LP on there, and it had of course, it had the Salvain over it at the time, which is long gone. But like I said, I think it was like $5.98, and I figured, how could I go wrong? Very cool cover. You have the yellow and red lights, spotlights in the background, and he's got that samurai sword. Just cool cover. You know what I mean? Just it screams Japan, even if it didn't say Made in Japan on there.
Right.
Right. And just fantastic. Like I said, I have a special affection for this album, and I have my original copy of it, and it's one that I will throw on every now and then, and just absolutely fantastic. And I was looking up to see that show, and it's weird the way that the track listing on this version, this is the 5-song version, starts out Running Free, then Remember Tomorrow, side 1. Side 2 is Wrathchild, Killers, and then Innocent Exile. But if you look at, I looked up that show that they played, and here's the set list. So it's weird the way that they put these songs out, because here's the total set list for that show: Wrathchild, Purgatory, Sanctuary, Remember Tomorrow, Another Life with a Clive Bird drum solo, Genghis Khan, Killers, Innocent Exile, Twilight Zone, Strange World, which that would have been cool to see live, Murders in the Rue Morgue, Phantom of the Opera. Then they go off with Iron Maiden. They do the first encore, come back with Running Free. They do another encore, they come back with Transylvania and do Drifter. They go off again, and they come back with Prowler, and then they do Running Free again. So, like, how they did the track listing on the Maiden Japan, I don't know, because they're all over the place. You know,
Yeah.
Wrathchild starts side 2, and it's the first song of the show. Running Free is one of the encores, and it's the first song on the album. Remember, tomorrow's track 4 in the show, track 2 on here. Killers is like track 7, and Innocent Exile. Actually, Killers and Innocent Exile are the only 2 on the EP that are in order. So
Right.
it's weird the way that they did that, but I mean, that would have been a fucking fantastic show.
Oh, just what you described. I was
Yeah.
like, man, I wish I was there. But I mean, they probably just like cut the tracks and said which were the best ones that we want to, represent us. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Put them in any order that you want.
Yeah, and that it's produced by Iron Maiden and Doug Hall. They're lighting. I think he was the lighting guy.
Okay.
And he's the one that is co-producer on that with Maiden.
Yes. What I hadn't heard this, I had it originally on cassette. That's long gone. All my cassettes are long gone. So I hadn't heard this in a long time. So I checked it out on YouTube. But what struck me, and I forgot how freaking fast they played "Remember Tomorrow."
Yeah.
It's like, wow, they really just ripped right through it. But all these tracks are amazing. Actually, Innocent Exile, I love this live version actually better than the studio cut.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, no, great EP. Loved it. Okay, so I guess we're gonna start wrapping this up. So, Steve, you got any final thoughts on these 2 albums and the series in general?
Yeah, I love doing this series. I love getting together one-on-one with my co-hosts throughout the podcast. I do Lillian Axe with BC. I do Mr. Big with BB. I do Queen with Dylan. I do Y&T with Sonny Pooney. I do Judas Priest with Stephen Michael. I do AC/DC with Brad Rustoven. I do Iron Maiden with you. And I have 2 other ones coming up in the next couple months. 2 different bands, 2 different co-hosts. And like I said, I like doing these. It gives the other guys a break in the action and lets me dive deep into stuff. I mean, like this one, I'm glad you're a Maiden guy, but like the ones that I'm not really that familiar with, like Y&T, I know, like, from like Mean Streak up, but the older stuff I only know smatterings of songs. Mr. Big, I only know the hits. Queen,
Right.
I only know the hits. Priest, I know them. It's cool going back then with Steven. Going back to do the Maiden stuff with you is fantastic. The AC/DC one I do with Brad is and they have a kind of convoluted start with album out in Australia,
sure.
and we just kind of went by what was released in the States. So and the other 2 I have coming up are pretty cool. So it's cool to indulge just on a specific band on just a short. Well, this is not a short show, but just to get in a little deeper into specific albums. And thank you for coming on. Thanks everyone out there listening. And that's good for me, Aaron. Wrap us up and take us out.
All right. So, Iron Maiden is a top 10 favorite band of mine. I've loved these guys forever. These first 2 albums, it's the basis of everything that they're going to become. Although they have a different flavor, they've got that punk rock flavor. They kind of weed that out as they go along. And everything changes with the next album. Like our next episode, we do this, everything is going to be different. But these first 2 albums, I don't sleep on them. If you're a Maiden fan, if you only know like the Bruce Dickinson, the popular stuff, don't sleep on these 2 albums, because a lot of these tracks are still peppered in their sets. And Paul Di'Anno's voice, once you get used to that different gritty voice and you listen to how his voice translates to these tunes, you're going to really dig it. I really think you will. So, Steve, thank you so much for doing. I love when you contacted me and said you wanted to do this. I'm like, yes, I'm doing a 2x2. You almost like said, what band do you want to do? I'm like, well, I'm the Maiden guy, so
Yep.
we got to let's do Maiden. It only makes sense. So I'm happy about that. I love being the Potter Than Hell Maiden guy, and I love your podcast. This is the 301st episode. Yeah, I get to plant my flag on that. That's really cool. So you can listen to a good chunk of these tracks that we talked about on this episode on the Spotify and Apple Music playlists. So, check this stuff out. Check the early Maiden out. It's awesome. Everybody take care out there and take care of each other in these very trying times. We'll see you next time. Wait a minute. I finally get to say this. We'll see you next time, and there will definitely be a next time.